Degree 10, Reflection Matter Theme. Privation, Broken Mirror, Descent. Triad Q, beginning loss, middle, measure refused, keywords. Hyle, steresis, eidolon, Dionysus mirror, river, edge, vacancy. Intent, establish the danger of images without source. Teach the discipline of tracing causes. Prime the ascent by renouncing shine without spring. Know first the custom of the edge, it glitters where the fountain is not. Know second the bargain of reflections, they pay you in themselves. Know third the arithmetic of lack. What is most bright may be most empty when it refuses its origin. Call the empty by its name, steresis, so it cannot trade under counterfeit light. Do not flatter deficit with the titles of blessing. Do not crown vacancy with the garland of arrival. A thing that refuses to be traced to its cause has already confessed its poverty. Do not lend it dignity by your hunger. Begin with your eyes. There are mirrors that are teachers and mirrors that are thieves. A true mirror trains the gaze to bear the source. A false mirror trains the heart to worship the surface. Measure the instrument by the appetite it breeds. After a true mirror, you want the sun. After a false mirror, you want more mirror. Do not believe the hunger that grows by its own feeding. Do not trust the praise that fattens without strengthening. Praise that fattens courage is wheat. Praise that fattens vanity is smoke. Put your hand through smoke, feel the absence. Put your hand into wheat, feel the grain answer. Walk the meadow of appearances with slow feet. The flowers will call you by 1,000 names, each more ornate than the last. Do not be hurried into acceptance. Ask each name for its parentage. Ask each shine for its spring. Ask each promise for its path of return. If the name cannot tell you its father, mark it as eidolon, image divorced from power. If the shine cannot show you a spring, mark it as borrowed. If the promise cannot walk back to its beginning, mark it as cut from the book of life. Keep such marks, they will spare you many griefs. Consider the river that boasts of 10,000 things. It speaks in gloss and gust. It brings offerings of driftwood shaped like crowns, of bottles with frantic notes, of masks that remember no faces. The river's noise says, all is motion, therefore all is liberty. Answer the river, all is motion, therefore none is home. Liberty without origin is exile with bright lanterns. Liberty without center is fatigue with jewels. Do not rent your gaze to the current. The current spends gazes like small coin. The current buys your attention and pays you back in foam. Remember the counsel of the elders. Nothing that is true fears being traced. Trace your food to its field. Trace your craft to its necessity. Trace your title to your service. Trace your joy to your vow. What cannot be traced cannot be trusted. What refuses to be traced refuses to be corrected. That is the secret of bright error. It claims a sovereignty that cannot be judged because it has murdered its genealogy. Demand genealogy. Demand the law of return. Demand the signature of a spring. If you must take a mirror into the river world, carry it like a shield that teaches you to look through, not away. Do not use it to avoid the gaze that heals. Use it to rehearse endurance for that gaze. The right mirror is an exercise. Hold it until your eyes no longer flinch from light, then lower it and meet the light itself. The wrong mirror is a narcotic. It congratulates your angle and calls the angle truth. The narcotic mirror will keep you alive under a slow drowning. The exercise mirror will bring you up for air and names. Speak to your hands. Touch nothing with haste. Haste is the ally of counterfeit. Haste spends your future to decorate your present. When a thing demands immediate purchase of your allegiance, ask it to sit in the vestibule while you sweep the house. Sweep with questions. Questions are the brooms of the soul. Ask, does this increase my capacity to love without lying? Does this deepen my courage without cruelty? Does this tighten my speech to truth? If the answer hides behind fog, open the windows. If there is no light to enter, there is no house. Examine your language for the commerce of vacancy. There are sentences that build roads and sentences that sell souvenirs. The souvenir sentence says always when it means today. The souvenir sentence says destiny when it means desire. The souvenir sentence says truth when it means comfort. Break such sentences and use their pieces to mend your shoes. Walk on. There are words that prefer walking to display. Keep them. There are words that prefer display to duty. Bury them. Learn to identify the edge by its two chief odors, urgency without aim and novelty without need. Urgency without aim shouts fire where there is none and mistrains your nerves to live in alarms. Novelty without need sells you tools for doors that do not exist. Refuse both odors. Incense your house with older scents, bread, rain, clean work, unmeasured laughter. Let the edge visit your porch and leave with courtesy. Do not let it live in your room. Attend to your gaze, for gaze is coin in the economy of being. Do not subsidize what destroys your neighbors. Do not fund spectacles that teach the young to barter their center for applause. Do not finance the idols with attention that belongs to the holy. The idol thrives on your gaze and punishes you with boredom. The holy thrives on its own sufficiency and gifts you rest. Where boredom follows, vacancy led. Where rest follows, root stands. Stand at the city gate and learn to price. Hold every coin to the sun. If it darkens, it is counterfeit. If it warms, it is true. Price your time by the children who will inherit its shape. Price your craft by the strangers who will live under its roof. Price your pleasure by the vow it strengthens. Do not price by envy. Do not price by fear. Envy buys coats in summer. Fear buys boats for deserts. Buy what is needful and what is noble. Leave the glitter to the market's appetite. When you are tempted to despair because the market is loud and the river is fashionable, remember the center in the circle. One point is present to every radius without being divided. One sun gives light to 10,000 panes without being shattered. Do not quarrel with panes. Ask them to confess their sun. Do not fight with radii. Ask them to confess their center. If they refuse, do not waste your breath. Return to the center, face the sun, and do your work where measurement is possible. Now hear the final counsel for the degree of descent. Withdraw the gaze that feeds the stone. The stone is not an enemy to be hated. It is a teacher that says, do not send warmth into what cannot return it. The stone will keep your light without gratitude and call it weight. Refuse to be kept. Refuse to be weighed in scales made for idols. Walk backward from the edge, one measured step at a time. Each step is already an ascent, though you do not yet call it by that name. When the noise lessens and the clarity grows, when your hands prefer work to display and your tongue prefers accuracy to charm, bless the emptiness behind you. It taught you to love fullness. Bless the mirror you broke. It taught you to seek the sun. Bless the river you refused. It taught you to hunger for the spring. Turn now toward the spring. Begin the return. Degree 9, Memory, Flame Theme, Self-Manifest Light, Recall, Purification, Union. Triad Q, Beginning, Spark, Middle, Recall, End, Peace. Keywords, Anamnesis, Self-Manifest, Autothilis, Self-Willed, Recall, Loosening, Presence, Purification. Intent, Establish the manner of genuine recollection, distinguish gift from self-kindling, teach the signs of true presence, move the soul from wandering heat to stable fire, prepare the ground for nous. Let the light come of itself. This is the first law of remembrance. Do not clap. Do not bargain. Do not arrange the furniture of your mind to look pious before a guest you cannot summon. Stand as the open door stands, closed against the wind of appetite, open toward the sun that chooses its own hour. The flame that matters is self-manifest and self-willed. It is not an effect of your rubbing, nor a prize for your endurance. It arrives like an elder who knows your name better than your mother did, and speaks it without flattery. When it speaks, alarms forget their script. Accept the discipline. Abstain from spectacle so you can recognize presence. There is a heat that agitates and there is a heat that clarifies. Test them. Agitated heat fattens noise and makes enemies of the smallest shadows. Clarified heat thins the fog and returns modesty to the loudest rooms. Agitated heat urges you to publish. Clarified heat urges you to serve. Agitated heat buys torches. Clarified heat learns the sky. If the warmth multiplies your demands, mistrust it. If the warmth simplifies your obedience, receive it. Memory in this degree is not a museum of images. It is a correction of energy. The soul ceases to push outward against the skins of things and begins to be pulled upward by their marrow. It is as if the river that had been bragging of its rapids remembers the mountain and flows with fewer gestures, more resolve. Knots of generation loosen. Ancient angers cannot find the tongue you once lent them. Appetites misplace the schedule you once kept for them. Vanities knock at doors you no longer rent. This loosening is not indifference. It is the removal of leashes from the animal that must follow a higher shepherd. Say quietly, I will not force what must be given. Say with joy, I receive what I did not ignite. Gratitude makes the proper air for the flame. Entitlement is carbon that consumes it. Keep a small lamp through the night. Discipline, vigil, vow. But do not mistake lamp for sun. Lamps are your consent to be found. Suns are what find you. Guard the lamp against pride. Polish the chimney. Refill the oil with honest work. And when the greater light rises, bow your lamp and let it rest. The sign the fathers give is plain enough to embarrass the clever. Where presence stands, hostility withdraws. Not all at once, and not forever. For the war of small spirits is persistent, but in the hour of true arrival, frenzy loses custody of the house. A gentleness takes the corridors. Speech remembers its shorter sentences. Eyes remember to look without hunger. If at the rumor of a visitation, quarrel and showmanship and grievance rise like wasps, call it what it is. Performance before a mirror. Shut the mirror. Reopen the door. Practice the recollection of the name. To recollect is to gather back the pieces of your attention into the simple shape that was handed to you at first. Say, I was named for service, not for spectacle, for clarity, not for applause, for love, not for leverage. Let each lost day return on the string of that name and fall into order. The days will resist. Days have habits, and habits have kneecaps, but the string is stronger than kneecaps. Pull gently and persistently. Do not yank. Set a rhythm. Remembrance likes rhythm more than brilliance. Beware of counterfeit flames. Some lights are made of friction and self-importance. They flare in late rooms and leave a soot that talks like insight. Counterfeit flame loves 3 verbs: perform, announce, accelerate. True flame loves 3 others: cleanse, quiet, call back. Counterfeit flame asks, what spectacle can I be? True flame asks, what vow can I keep? Counterfeit flame makes allies of your nerves. True flame makes allies of your promises. If your nerves praise you and your promises yawn, you are in the wrong light. Let the body be taught by the flame. The shoulders learn to lower without collapse. The jaw learns to release its old bargains. The breath is recovered from the anxious lease it held under fear. You will notice that breath and trust share a corridor. Visit that corridor often. Inhale modestly. Exhale without performance. Let this simple economy become the metronome of your recollection. When forgetfulness returns, and it will, do not scold the mind as if it were a servant that had broken your glass. Greet it as a child who lost its way in a crowded market. Take its hand. Walk home the same route, naming things that matter the same names you gave them yesterday. Repetition is not failure here. It is fidelity to the map that saves lives. Give away what the flame purifies. This is not philanthropy. It is geometry. Heat not spent on fury can warm a table. Words not employed to justify can bless a friend. Hours not used to polish the self can repair a roof. Return surplus to the city. It was never yours. The flame reveals the arithmetic of sufficiency. Enough is not a border. It is a center. Stand at that center and discover how much smaller your hunger becomes and how much farther your hands can reach. Keep 2 inscriptions at the lintel of your room. First, it is given. Second, it is for others. These are the rails. These are the rails that keep a soul from running into the ditch of self-drama. When praise arrives, translate it quickly into responsibility. When blame arrives, sieve it through the vow and keep only what clarifies the path. Do not co-author your enemy's scripts by rehearsing them at dinner. Set more chairs instead. Tell more truth instead. Thank more quietly instead. If the flame awakens memory of wrongs you did or injuries you received, let it sort them into 3 baskets. In the first, things to confess. In the second, things to forgive. In the third, things to forget. Keep the first 2 baskets in motion until they are empty. Keep the third basket open and unremarkable. Do not live in the museum of your wounds. They are not reliquaries. They are classrooms you have already passed. Set their benches in order and leave the door unlocked for those who come after you. Learn the grammar of peace. Peace is not the absence of weather. It is the absence of war within one will. Make treaties between your faculties, between appetite and counsel, between fear and vigilance, between imagination and vow. The flame is the ambassador. It speaks in the language you knew before your first quarrel with yourself. Yes to the good without greed, no to the lesser without malice. Practice this old tongue until your decisions begin to sound like it, and your refusals stop sounding like hunger in costume. When the light has stood long enough to make a custom of your house, Set waymarks for nights when it will seem to have gone. Write down the evident mercies. List the reconciliations that could not possibly have been achieved by your craft. Write the names you can now bless without gritting your teeth. Put these waymarks in the drawer where you keep bread and salt. On the days when recollection is thin and the old heat prowls for work, open the drawer. Eat. Season your memory with your own honesty. Return to your vow. Finally, knowing the flame is a guide, do not freeze in worship of the guide. It does not want your bow, it wants your return. Turn your face toward the ascent, now less difficult because you are less divided. Take the lamp, but do not confuse it with the sun. Follow the summons back toward the cause that sent it. As you go, keep the sign simple. Where presence stands, hostility withdraws. Where the knot loosens, walk. Where the crowd in your chest grows quiet enough to hear a single name, answer. The name is yours, pronounced from above. The flame remembers it. You will remember it too. When at last the light calls you not to a feeling but to a place, when it orders your steps into a gentler geometry, obey. There is a gate ahead that takes weight only from those who arrive unarmed by grievance and unarmed by glamour. Approach with hands that are not busy and a heart that has learned to be a room. The door will recognize the fire's work in your face and open without noise. Step through. The peace on the other side is not spectacle. It is union given without need of witnesses. Guard it. Spend it quietly. Carry it forward into noon. Degree 8. Son of Intellect. Theme: stable sight, intelligible forms, cause. Triad Q. Beginning, approach, middle, vision, end, abiding. Keywords: nous, eidos, theoria, cause, simplicity, noon, kinship, sufficiency. Intent: establish the manner of noetic seeing, distinguish image from form, teach the discipline of simplification, school the will to abide at noon, prepare the mind to act as witness rather than collector. Ascend first to nous, not by ladder of compliments, not by armor of arguments, but by simplifying until standing is natural. Put down the instruments that were useful in the night, the lamp of anxious vigilance, the cudgel of self-defense, the cloak of performance. Noon is not achieved, it is allowed. The sun does not bargain to enter the room you open. It enters because it is sufficient. Make a room of your mind. Sweep it of contingencies. Leave a table, a chair, and a window that faces the cause of things. Now face the cause. In this light, things are seen in their cause, and what you called explanation becomes a face. The forms do not decorate being. The forms are being's very shape. Justice stands forth, not as compromise, but as proportion that reconciles strength and mercy without debt. Courage stands forth, not as appetite in harness, but as steadiness that pays no bribes to fear. Temperance stands forth, not as shortage, but as song in measure that frees desire from its quarrel with itself. Beauty stands forth, not as paint on the world, but as the presence of rightness in the bones of what is. You had called these virtues ideas when you were cold. Now they are kinsmen. You had hunted them like prey when you were starving. Now they feed you without fleeing. Learn how knowledge behaves at noon. It does not compete. Each form confirms each other form. Geometry and compassion bow to one another across the square. Number and equity draw water from the same well. If some brilliance begins to strut between them, it is not noon. It is a lantern boasting in a cave. Set it outside. When the mind is truly in nous, envy dies of thirst. There is too much light for theft to make sense. There is too much sufficiency for hoarding to be clever. You stop counting seats and start setting tables. Practice theoria without gluttony. Behold, do not devour. The eye that devours grows hungry with each mouthful. The eye that beholds grows akin with each vision. Let the form instruct you by likening you to itself. Justice will straighten your spine before it drafts your speeches. Courage will teach your breath before it loans you a banner. Beauty will still your hands before it loans you a chisel. Accept instruction in the order the forms prefer, being before doing, sufficiency before display. If you reverse the order, you will turn noon into theater and call the applause light. Discriminate between image and form. Image demands witnesses, form demands kinship. Image shouts for angles, form stands in any. Image resents correction, form welcomes trace back to its source. Test every vision. Can it survive the sun without your shadow arranging it? If your presence is required to keep it impressive, it is image. If your presence is unnecessary to keep it true, it is form. Set image to work in markets and plays, where it belongs. Keep form in sanctuaries and workshops where it makes men. You will be tempted to collect noon. Resist. The collector turns the hall of forms into a cabinet of trophies and dies beneath the shale of his own labels. The witness carries one line into the city and lays it into bread and contracts and lullabies. Carry one line at a time. Noon is squandered by greed. Take justice today and spend it in weighing your speech, your price, your laughter. Take beauty tomorrow and spend it in keeping proportion between silence and song. Take truth the day after and spend it in keeping your promises heavier than your excuses. The market will call this slow. The market is timed by appetite. Noon is timed by sufficiency. Abiding is a craft. Learn its small rules. When the light sharpens into critique, soften without blurring. When the light broadens into comfort, tighten without cruelty. Do not chase the bright patch across the wall. Let the wall receive its hour. Do not schedule rapture. Schedule readiness. Keep the window clean, not because sunlight can be bribed by glass, but because the sun deserves an honest welcome. When shadows fall, as they must in a world that turns, do not accuse the sun with your clocks. Use the shadow to rehearse faith. What was clear remains clear, though not presently seen. Faith at noon is gratitude remembered. Faith at evening is gratitude practiced. Simplicity is the engine of abiding. Complication is sometimes love's courtesy to weakness, but it is never Nous's demand. Strip down a thought until it cannot be misunderstood by a child who has learned silence. Strip down a sentence until it leaves no grease on the hand that carries it. If a reason requires costume, it intends seduction. If a reason stands bare and unembarrassed, it intends instruction. Prefer the central over the clever, the route that serves 10 problems to the trick that solves one. The mind's nobility is measured by what it unifies without violence. Guard against the two thieves of noon, pride and hurry. Pride says, "This light is mine." Answer, "It is given." Hurry says, "This light must be spent before the hour changes." Answer, "It is sufficient." Pride turns witness into proprietor. Hurry turns service into stunt. Pride builds shrines to its own discernment. Hurry builds factories of premature action. Both darken the window. Keep a broom and a bell. Sweep away the dust of compliments each morning. Ring the bell of recollection each hour. I am being taught. I am not the teacher. Let Nous correct your measures. Many of your rulers were carved from fear. You measured promises by weather. You measured neighbors by rumor. You measured worth by noise. Exchange them for rulers cut from form. Measure your speech by truth, not by victory. Measure your profits by fairness, not by cunning. Measure your courage by care for the weak, not by taste for risk. If a measure humiliates those it weighs, it was made by appetite. If a measure elevates those it weighs, it was made by Nous. Revise your scales, you will hear the city grow quieter. Bring noon into the body. The back lengthens without rigidity, as if the spine were remembering its first line. The jaw releases the treaty it had signed with resentment. The hands learn to rest on the table between tasks, not as those who have surrendered, but as those who can begin again without evidence of strain. Breath changes arithmetic. More is not bigger, more is slower. You will discover that speed was often fear, that volume was often a mask for uncertainty. Practice the slow exactness that noon loves. It does not miss appointments, and it does not step on toes. When disagreement comes, and Nous does not cancel difference, it clarifies it. Conduct your quarrels under the sun. Start by naming the shared form you serve. If you cannot name one, you are not having a quarrel, you are exchanging advertisements. End by naming the action you will take together before the day closes. If you cannot name one, you have traded truth for theater. Keep theater for celebrations. Keep truth for work. Noon gives you a luxury the night cannot afford. To admit you were wrong without losing face, because the face belongs to the form you both serve. Prepare for the common trial, absence. Clouds will pass. Minds will ache. Old appetites will rehearse comebacks under the bleachers. Do not curse the weather. Keep customs that survive weather. Custom 1. Write what was evident at noon and bind yourself to act as if it remains true when sky is veiled. Custom 2. Rehearse kinship. Repeat to yourself the names of the forms as family, not weapons. Custom 3. Keep a table of sufficiency, a small list of tasks that honor noon even when noon is not felt. Tell the truth clearly. Refuse a petty advantage, forgive a small debt, finish a promised thing. These customs are dry bread in the evening. They keep the mind from borrowing from the usurer of despair. At last, learn the paradox that graduates this degree. Noon is not a climax. It is a condition. It does not end scenes with symbols. It specifies their measures. The city needs witnesses more than it needs performers. The house needs a beam more than a banner. Be a beam. Carry a single, load-bearing line from the Hall of Forms into the rooms where children study, and old men trade, and judges listen, and lovers swear. Hold it without display until the room holds it with you. Then leave it there, and go back for another. When you depart the hall, depart without souvenirs. Leave with kinship in your gait and sufficiency in your breath. If anyone asks what you saw, answer with service. Price the bread fairly today. Repair a tool without being asked. Bless a rival in the terms of the craft you share. Noon is not a story to be told, but a rightness to be enacted. And if, on the threshold, you look once more into the hall and fear you have not used the light enough, remember, light does not need to be used. It needs to be kept clear. Keep it clear, and walk on. Degree 7, Purification Threshold Theme, Passionlessness, Instrumentality, Testing of Signs, Fitness for Presence. Triad Q, Beginning, Separation, Middle, Cooling, End, Readiness. Keywords: catharsis, apathia, instrument, criterion, precinct, seal, measure, vow. Intent: teach the art of making fit, distinguish divine operation from psychophysical agitation, establish public criteria, train the will to become an instrument, ready the soul to cross the gate without carrying heat that does not serve. Set the measure, seal the gate. Every threshold is guarded by customs older than your hunger. Enter them without drama. First custom, separate before you select. Do not sort omens while you are still tangled in them. Step back. Wash your hands. Wash your hearing. Wash your remembering. Second custom, cool what burns for its own sake. There is a heat that clarifies and a heat that boasts. Both are warm on the skin. Only one leaves clean tools on the table. Learn the signatures. Psychophysical heat is a noisy creditor. It quotes interest, it asks for audience, it arrives with chills, giddiness, and the applause of your nerves. It is not evil, it is unfit for the work of gods. Divine operation is quiet and apathès. It acts without passion and leaves the precinct cleaner than it found it. Where it stands, hostility withdraws. Where it speaks, grievances forget their arguments and sit down. If frenzy mounts at a rumor of presence, you are worshipping mirrors. Close them. Reopen the door. Put away the costumes that make you brave at the expense of truth. The threshold recognizes fitness, not theater. Fitness is the agreement of inner weather with the work at hand. It is a spine that does not bargain, a gaze that does not buy, a tongue that does not invoice every sentence. If your courage needs witnesses, it is not yet courage. It is appetite wearing a herald's cloak. If your tenderness needs reward, it is not yet tenderness. It is trade with sweeter coins. Adopt the old criterion and keep it public. When the god comes, the hostile yields. Write it on your lintel. Let even an enemy use it against you. If your revelation makes you proud, it did not come to you. If your ecstasy makes others small, it did not come for you. If your practice inflames partisans and starves mercy, it has mistaken the altar. True arrival reduces quarrel, not because it flatters cowardice, but because it gives the mind higher work than triumph. Practice catharsis as craft, not performance. Scrub your speech until it stops leaking contempt. Scrub your silence until it no longer hoards resentment. Scrub your memory until the debt ledger can be read by daylight and amended in the presence of the living. Carry a vow you can recite without sprinting. Keep it portable, fit for market, field, council, and widow's house. A vow too heavy to take into suffering is a costume, not a covenant. Drill the tests. Test of source, ask every stirring, who sent you? Test of direction, where do you want me to go? Test of charge, what must I carry through the gate, and what must I leave at the threshold? If a stirring cannot answer the third, it is not fit to travel. Desire that refuses to be weighed will ransom you in every city. Let the body learn purity with you. Teach the jaw to unlearn its old treaties with anger. Teach the shoulders to lower without collapse. Teach breath to be a citizen instead of a fugitive. Eat simply enough that clarity is not a miracle. Sleep honestly enough that dawn does not negotiate with dread. You are building a precinct, not an alibi. Restore the economy of signs. A real sign lowers the price of obedience. A counterfeit sign raises it. A real sign clarifies the next necessary act. A counterfeit sign multiplies projects to keep your hands famous. A real sign is willing to be checked by others under light. A counterfeit sign prefers basement rooms and passworded admiration. If your sign cannot survive the public criterion, let it go with thanks. The god does not fear sunlight. Be an instrument, not a performer. Instruments take shape under demand and do not claim authorship for the music. Wood becomes flute by removal, metal becomes bell by emptiness. Your usefulness is on the far side of subtraction. Remove the ornaments that make only your shadow ring. Remove the tricks that force applause out of tired crowds. Keep the clear tone and the right pitch. If a listener thanks you, teach them to thank the measure you kept. Mark the permissible heats. There is the heat of penitence that loosens old knots. Keep it. There is the heat of zeal that spends itself to repair a breach. Keep it under rule. There is the heat of pity that grasps beyond strength. Share the weight. Do not hoard the heroism. All other heats, those that enlarge your image, shorten your compassion, shift the bill to the weak, pour them out on the threshold and leave them steaming on the stones. The gate knows what to do with steam. It lets it vanish. Take counsel with Hecate's customs, the middle that measures and seals. Before you open, measure. Is this motion proportioned to the truth it serves? Before you proceed, seal. Bind the act to the vow so it cannot be commandeered by vanity on the road. After you finish, unseal. Release the act from your ownership so it can be used beyond your reach. This threefold care, measure, seal, unseal, keeps the precinct free of trophies and your hands free of rust. Attend to names. Use names that make promises visible. Helper, not savior. Witness, not owner. Caretaker, not king. You are preparing to pass into rooms where titles do not fit under lintels. Heavy names bruise heads, simple names pass through. If a title cannot be spoken at a sickbed without sarcasm, leave it at the door. If a title cannot be whispered at a graveside without shame, give it back to the market that sold it. Rehearse failure without despair. You will carry heat you thought you had laid down. You will insult someone in the name of zeal. You will mistake adrenaline for inspiration. When this happens, repair the precinct you damaged, sweep the floor where your words broke, return what you took in haste, ask the harmed what they need instead of composing apologies as theater. The gate is patient with those who clean where they fell. Keep a ledger of small renunciations. Write, today I refused a cheap victory. Today I waited one breath longer before speaking. Today I asked a second question and found the first answer wanting. Today I let another keep the last word and saw the room uncoil. These are not minor. They are the coins that buy passage. Pay in such coins until the customs officer of the gate smiles because your purse is light. Guard against the two thieves of purification, scruple and spectacle. Scruple gnaws the rope you are climbing and calls it honesty. Spectacle paints the rope and calls it inspiration. Scruple makes you too pure to serve. Spectacle makes you too busy to obey. The cure for scruple is mercy toward yourself, measured by the truth you owe others. The cure for spectacle is work performed where counting hands is impossible. Practice publicness without exhibition. Post the criterion at your shop. We will not do what inflames the weak. We will not sell what cannot be returned. We will not praise what refuses to be traced. Let neighbors test you by it. This is not surrender to gossip. It is hospitality to verification. A threshold that cannot be examined is not a temple. It is a club. Close clubs, open temples. Make room for instruments of others. The god does not use only you. Lay your tools where another hand can reach them. Share methods without selling your name with them. Correct a novice without stealing their courage. Praise an elder without borrowing their authority. Let the precinct teach collaboration that does not dissolve accountability. Instruments tuned to the same scale do not clash. They make a place for melody larger than any throat. Prepare for the night tests. When presence seems withdrawn, the old heats prowl for work. Keep an order for absence. 1. Recite your vow. 2. Perform one act of mercy that costs you convenience. 3. Refuse one indulgence that fattens your image. Sleep. Absence ends. If it endures, it has its own curriculum. You are being taught to keep the precinct without fireworks. When counsel is demanded at the gate, answer briefly. Does this motion make you simpler? Can this truth be carried by a tired person without breaking them? Will this act still read cleanly when the crowd goes home? If the three are yes, open. If one is no, wait. Waiting is not cowardice. It is reverence for the size of consequences. Finally, learn the posture of crossing. Do not lean forward. Do not look back. Bring no one by force. Leave no one by contempt. Walk as one who can be used, not displayed. Walk as one who can be corrected, not undone. Walk as one who carries only what the God can lift with you. When the gate feels your weight and does not protest, when the air beyond tastes like tasks without vanity, when even your enemies could bless your footprints for not crushing seedlings, go on. Turn once to bless the stones. They taught you what not to carry. Then let the seal fall behind you with a sound like peace. Degree 6, Beauty Statue Theme, Presence of Form, Revelation by Subtraction, Inner Temple, Right Proportion. Triad Q, Beginning, Remove, Middle, Reveal, End, Recognize. Keywords: Kalos, Morphe, Symmetry, Proportion, Unveiling, Presence, Temple, Sculptor Within. Intent: Teach subtractive craft. Distinguish ornament from presence. School the eye to proportion. Seat the soul in the inner temple where form stands forth of itself. Prepare hands and speech to work as vessels of beauty rather than vendors of charm. Begin with subtraction. Additions are easy, unveilings are holy. Put down the brush that flatters and take up the chisel that frees. The stone is not your enemy. The stone is your memory of weight, your reminder that the world resists lies with a patience you do not possess. Do not accuse the block. Ask it. Ask, what of me does not belong to me? Ask, what in this mass is the Morphe that has waited since before I could name my hunger? Ask, what would remain if praise were removed from the room and payment delayed? If your hand grows nervous, rest it on the block until its heartbeat is learned by yours. Beauty suffers no haste. It is not late for anything. Practice the grammar of removal. Strike away everything accidental. Gesture that makes noise, flourish that makes you large, decoration that purchases attention at the expense of rightness. Remove the vanity that bends a line for a spectator, the resentment that tilts a jaw for revenge, the fear that thickens a wall so you cannot be read. Chip away the irony that scumbles faces to avoid tenderness. Chip away the habit that calls ugliness honesty because tenderness feels too expensive. Keep chipping until silence begins to ring. Silence is the first announcement that beauty is near. Learn the difference between ornament and presence. Ornament needs audience. Presence needs air. Ornament puts weight on edges. Presence seats weight in the center and lets the edges rest. Ornament multiplies angles. Presence multiplies coherence. If the thing you are making demands an audience to remain confident, it is an ornament. If the thing you are making becomes more itself in an empty room, it is a presence. Train for empty rooms. If emptiness makes your work shrink, subtract until it does not. Attend to symmetry without tyranny and proportion without fuss. Symmetry is not mirror lust, it is the right relation of parts to the whole. Proportion is not rule worship, it is the recognition that measures our friendships within being. The eye knows when a friendship is false. A head too proud for its shoulders is a speech too proud for its truth. A base too thin for its column is a promise too thin for its cost. Let proportion teach ethics. Keep promises as thick as the loads you mean to carry. Make gestures no larger than the tenderness that can sustain them tomorrow. Do not carve faces. Free the face already there. The sculptor within does not invent, he remembers. He knows which void belongs between fingers, which curve reconciles strength and mercy in a cheek, which plane lets light rest without demanding explanation. Practice this remembering until your hand grows modest and sure. Modesty is not shrinking from skill. It is refusing to use skill for theft. Surety is not disdain for correction. It is the quiet that comes of choosing the necessary stroke 80% of the time and apologizing cleanly for the other 20. Build the inner temple by clearing a place where presence can stand without argument. The temple is made of attention, measure, and gratitude. Attention that does not graze but grails, long, cupped, and steady. Measure that does not police but keeps peace, assigning the just space to every necessity. Gratitude that does not gush but flows, like a clean spring through stone, neither bargaining nor blushing. When these three hold a room, beauty enters as if it had the key. It does. It carries the key to every room that has not stolen furniture from its neighbors. Name and set aside the 3 deceivers of beauty. First deceiver, novelty, the will to be first where being right would suffice. It glitters like morning on glass and leaves no place for noon to sit. Second deceiver, sentimentality, the will to feel without obligation to form. It offers syrup where the soul needs bread. Third deceiver, cynicism, the will to refuse tenderness lest one be fooled. It paints iron on the eyelids and calls the dark realism. Disarm novelty with patience. Dilute sentiment with truth. Heal cynicism with small, repeated acts of accurate praise. Bring body and speech under beauty's presidency. Let the body learn economy. A hand at rest more eloquent than 10 emphatic gestures. A breath that measures sentences so that hearers are never overdrawn. Let speech bear weight like a well-cut arch. No stone shoves another. Every stone serves another. Strip diction of smugness and poverty alike. Choose words that give back more than they take. Beauty hates flattery because it is theft in address. Beauty hates meanness because it is theft without laundering. Speak as one who returns coins to the common purse after buying the necessary. Put failure to work. You will carve too deep. You will polish too long. You will varnish because you fear dry wood will not sing. When you fail, do not add more to hide it. Subtract more until the error reveals the law it violated. Write that law on your wall. Laws earned by error are tender. They do not swagger. They remember how easily a hand can tremble. Beauty is merciful to those who learn from tremors. Mercy is beauty's posture in the face of time. Set discipline at the door to guard against exhibition. Exhibition pays you twice and empties you once. Discipline pays you once and fills you twice. Post this sign in the studio and mean it. Nothing leaves this room that is not more itself than when it entered. Apply it to drafts, to friendships, to prayers. If a thing crawls out of your hands more disguised than it was in the raw, call it back. If a friend leaves more masked than when they knocked, call yourself back. If a prayer ends with you larger than the vow it began with, kneel until the sizes invert. Introduce light as a collaborator, not a confessor. Do not ask light to forgive your lazy planes. Let light find planes that deserved it. Turn the work until light confirms the intention from more than one angle. Beauty despises one-angle sanctity. One-angle saints persecute sideways. Beauty wants breadth of rightness, morning light that says yes, noon that says yes, evening that says still yes, and a moon that says, I remember your shape when others sleep. Keep tools worthy of the form. A dull chisel rewards violence. A sharp chisel honors restraint. Dull tools make you feel powerful. Sharp tools make you feel responsible. Choose responsibility. Oil what binds, sand what snags, square what wobbles. Your tools become your temperament. If your edges bite long after you lifted your hand, your edges are too proud. Hone them until they serve joy more than demonstration. Let Hecate's middle visit this degree with her measuring and sealing. Before you set the final line, measure. Does it reconcile parts into whole without humiliation? Before you present the work, seal. Bind it to the vow. Presence, not ornament. Service, not spectacle. After it has begun its city life, unseal it from your name so it may serve where you are not invited. Beauty is not a trademark. It is a commons where souls recognize themselves in one another's faces. Learn to recognize beauty's arrival. Signs. You forget to perform. Envy loosens. Sarcasm tastes like ash. The poor are not bored in its presence. The powerful are not flattered. Children stand up straighter without being told. Tools put themselves away as if aware of their dignity. When these signs visit, bow once to the giver beyond the gift. Name the spring beneath the shine. Then practice the last courtesy, step aside. Presence does not need a herald, it needs a clear floor. Give beauty work. Do not put it only in galleries and altars. Put it in contracts and kitchens, in code and carpentry, in sidewalks and sentencing. Set a rule for public life. If a thing will be touched by many hands, make it easier, kinder, clearer, stronger, truer. Beauty that cannot survive use was only vanity. Beauty that grows with use is justice wearing a face. Prepare for the evening of this degree. The day will end, applause will thicken like insects, fatigue will ask you to cheat. Keep a stanza of customs for the dark. 1. Put your tools to bed clean. 2. Write one sentence you can pronounce to a stranger without deforming your mouth. 3. Thank the block for what it kept you from adding. 4. Sleep as a temple sleeps, unguarded by anxiety. guarded by law. Morning will find you ready to subtract again. Finally, learn the simplest blessing of Kalos. Beauty tells the truth that goodness is not an accident. It is the face of being when being is well. Take that proof without vanity. Offer that proof without display. Leave behind the room more itself than when you entered. Walk out with hands that have learned to free and words that have learned to fit. The city is starved for presence. Feed it with unveiled forms. The gods do not need more ornaments. They desire temples that others can live in. Be such a temple. Degree 5. Virtue, ladder theme, measured ascent, consent to order, joining to higher powers. Triad Q, beginning, rule, middle, practice, end, ascent. Keywords, arete, metron, taxis, anagoe, rungs, vow, habit, joining, synapsis. Intent, establish virtue as a road rather than a pose. Give a public, teachable rule. Turn excellence from display into joining. Prepare the soul to climb by small fidelities that carry the weight of greater gifts. Begin with a rule. A rule is a remembered mountain. Without a rule, you orbit appetites and rename dizziness freedom. Write the rule where even enemies can read it. Metron before momentum, taxis before triumph, vow before opportunity. Measure first, order next, then act. The unmeasured deed steals from tomorrow. The unordered deed scatters today. The vowless deed advertises you and empties the work. Lay the first rung where your feet already stand. Ladder is not built in the clouds. It is hammered from local wood. Rung 1, truth in speech. Let your mouth carry only what your hands can help. Rung 2, measure an appetite. Eat to work, not to forget. Rest to serve, not to hide. Rung 3, courage without cruelty. Endure cost without billing neighbors. Rung 4, justice without pride. Weigh fairly without staging virtue. Rung 5, steadfastness. Finish the small promise before designing the large. Add no rung you will not climb today. Tomorrow is won by a today fulfilled. Call virtue by its plain name. Consent to the architecture of being. You are not inventing a morality. You are aligning with measures that pre-exist your wish. When you consent, you become joinable, fit to be taken hold of by powers that would tear a scattered soul. Joining, synapsis, is not seizure, it is consonance. A string that keeps pitch draws a hand to make music. Keep pitch. Practice until habit becomes lighter than will. The first obedience drags. The 5th obeys you. The 50th obeys the work itself. Do not despise repetition. Repetition is how rivers cut stone. Set a liturgy for common hours. Wake without bargaining. Give thanks before choosing. Ask who benefits before posting. Reconcile before sleeping. Small, repeated rungs lift greater weight than spasms of dazzled effort. Spasm is theater. Habit is road. Organize your day by taxis. Place things where they do each other good. Put study before counsel so your counsel has food. Put silence before speech so your speech has shape. Put listening before leadership so your leadership has neighbors. Taxis is not bureaucracy, it is friendship among acts. When acts befriend each other, you do not tire of carrying them. Keep the vow portable. A vow that cannot cross a market or a hospital corridor is costume. Write the vow short, tell truth, keep measure, do mercy. If you need more syllables, the vow is doing your vanity's work. Test the vow in weather. Speak it in anger and see if it tames your tongue. Speak it in fear and see if it steadies your breath. Speak it in praise and see if it shrinks you back to human. A vow that cannot discipline delight is not yet sacred. It is a leash for sorrow only. Count progress by quiet, not by witnesses. Quiet does not mean secrecy. It means absence of hustle. You are not an influencer of virtue. You are a worker under a law. If applause fattens you, fast from it. If blame clarifies you, keep it as medicine. If both become noise, turn the volume down with labor. Repair what you broke, return what you borrowed, complete what you promised. Be warned of counterfeit ladders. Some go nowhere, but up inside your own head. Signs, steps that make you admire yourself at every landing, rules that bind others more tightly than they bind you, a summit that is mostly mirrors. Step off. True ladders lead from self-order to city order. Your clean room becomes a clean contract. Your kept appointment becomes kept wages. Your measured appetite becomes a table where the poor are not humiliated by your prosperity. Translate virtue into public prices. If you sell, set prices that tell the truth about labor without lying about the weak. If you judge, weigh mercy with equity. Mercy unmoored from equity becomes favoritism. Equity unmoored from mercy becomes cruelty in robes. If you build, cut corners only from your pride, not from the beam. Let others predict your choices by the vow you printed. Predictability in goodness is not dullness, it is refuge. Let arete cure the glamour of exception. You are not chosen to bypass law. You are chosen to become lawful enough to carry greater trust. Virtue is not a hall pass, it is a harness. Harness is not humiliation. It is how heavy loads move without catastrophe. Say yes to the yoke you can pull with cheer. Say no to the parade float that consumes a city's bread for your single ride. Inventory your rungs like a steward, not like a collector. A collector counts to own, a steward counts to serve. Which rung bears the most weight? Strengthen it. Which rung splinters under small strain? Replace it before you fall and blame the mountain. Which rung did you skip to feel advanced? Climb down. You cannot cheat gravity. Virtue has no advanced placement. Every omission becomes a debt with interest. Mind the edges where virtue is most tempted to pose. In counsel, do not borrow severity from ignorance. Do not borrow tenderness from cowardice. In conflict, do not confuse silence with peace. Do not confuse volume with courage. In generosity, give without receipts in your soul. Do not disguise control as care. In chastity, do not call contempt for body's holiness. Do not call compulsions love. At every edge, ask, does this strengthen the neighbor or my need to be seen strengthening the neighbor? Choose the answer that will still be good if unobserved. Bring the body into agreement. Virtue that despises flesh becomes abstract and cruel. Virtue that obeys flesh becomes sentimental and weak. Train the jaw to soften without retreat. Train the hands to open without abandoning tools. Train the back to bend to burdens without bending to flattery. Feed the body to work. Rest the body to remain kind. You are an animal that can be taught law. Honor both facts. Study failure as a tutor. You will lie one day you meant to tell truth. Confess it publicly enough to end your advantage. You will overcorrect and wound a child with your zeal. Repair the wound with patience at the pace of the child, not the schedule of your shame. You will mistake celebrity for trust. Pay back the attention with plain service until the account balances. Let failure deepen humility, not whiten your knuckles. Adopt a ledger of rungs climbed that costs you something real. Right. Today I returned a profit that belonged to someone too tired to count. Today I refused the joke that sells the weak to make the strong laugh. Today I made a plan that includes the person who will clean this floor when I leave. Today I kept a boundary that saved a friend from my need to be needed. Ledger is not pride's diary. It is memory's scaffold. Practice joining. The hire does not seize the scattered. It joins the aligned. Make yourself joinable. Reconcile with those you have slandered. Clarify contracts with those you have used. Return tools with more oil than you borrowed. When you are invited into work larger than your name, put on the form it requires. Do not strut in borrowed garments. Wear them by becoming them. If you depart, leave the garment folded for the next worker. Let Hecate's middle measure your steps. Beginning, middle, end for every deed. Beginning, set the measure. What is enough? What is too much? Middle, keep the seal. Bind the act to the vow so appetite cannot hijack it. End, perform the unsealing. Release credit. Return the work to the commons. Triadic customs keep ladders from becoming ladders of domination. Beware the two thieves of virtue. Scruple and spectacle. Again they return. Scruple chews through rope and calls it exactness. Spectacle paints rotten rungs and calls it inspiration. Cure scruple with mercy toward the worker for the sake of the work. Cure spectacle with tasks that cannot be photographed, listening until another finishes their pain. Cleaning what no one admits they soiled. Paying the one invoice that will never tweet your kindness. Teach your house the same rule so no one carries your weight alone. Share your calendar with those you owe. Make your ethics legible to the tired. Post a sign. We will not profit from confusion. We will not schedule what steals sleep. We will not praise what refuses to be traced to a good. Let apprentices correct you by the sign you wrote. When they do, bless them and amend the day. Virtue that cannot be corrected is merely rank. Climb by small fidelities. Plant a garden of micro-rungs. Answer the message you fear with candor. Return the tool you love before the hour. Say, I don't know, before the lid of lies seals. Learn one name per day of those who empty your bins. Pay invoices early as a sport. Small fidelities carry the weight of greater gifts because they teach your will to lift on command. Bring joy. Virtue that cannot laugh will eventually punish laughter. The city flees such saints. Laugh at your stiffness. Laugh at the pomp of your tidy plans when a baby or storm crosses the room. Keep play on the ladder. Let Sabbath interrupt profit, let feast interrupt austerity, let song correct sermons that have grown too proud of their syllables. Joy is consent to the goodness of order. It keeps the ladder from becoming a scaffold for anxiety. When night comes and rungs blur, keep an order for fog. 1. Read yesterday's ledger. 2. Do one obvious good that needs no brilliance. 3. Refuse one indulgence that will punish tomorrow. 4. Sleep as a citizen of a city that is held by larger hands. Fog lifts. If it lingers, it is the season of patient ascent. Do not saw new rungs in the dark. Finally, remember what the ladder is for. It is not for height as spectacle. It is for reach as service. You climb to bring down bread, not applause. To mend a beam, not to wave from it. To fetch a child from a window where smoke has reached before sense. When you have climbed enough to forget why, descend. Share the steps. Teach the rhythm. Leave a note, metron before momentum, taxis before triumph, vow before opportunity. Then sleep. Morning will ask for another rung. You will be ready. Degree 4, Dialectic Temple Theme, Discernment, Hierarchy of Signs, Clean Thought, Testing, Criterion of Presence. Triac, Beginning, Separate, Middle, Way to End. Keywords, Diakrisis, Discernment, Logos, Criterion, Presence, Precinct, Canon, Measure, Seal, Verification. Intent, establish dialectic as sacred architecture rather than combative sport. Distinguish divine presence from psychophysical agitation and rhetorical glamour. Give public tests any honest adversary can apply. Train the mind to become a precinct where truth can stand unassisted. Prepare the soul to carry clarity into multiplicity, degree 3, without fracture. Open the precinct of mind and sweep it daily. The temple is not built once, it is kept. Begin with doors and thresholds. A mind without doors loses heat and gathers vermin. A mind without thresholds lets festival and courtroom mingle until verdicts smell of wine. Hang doors that open smoothly to arguments worth entering and close gently to noises that only want echoes. Etch diakrisis in the lintel. Separate before you decide. Set the hierarchy in the narthex and bow to it each morning. What is from above governs what is from below. Cause corrects effect. Presence outranks procedure. This is not pious decor, it is structural. If you reverse it, the roof will collapse quietly and flatter you on the way down. Write a canon of first questions: whence, source, whither, end, what for, function, for whom, beneficiaries, at what cost, hidden prices. Bring every sign to these scales, leave none exempt for reasons of celebrity or panic. Appoint Logos as warden, not the sharp tongue that wins crowds, but the sober measure that puts stones where they bear weight. Logos is not a spotlight, it is a plumb line. Tie it to the beam of the good and drop it through propositions until the floor learns to be level. When cleverness arrives in carnival colors, ask it to undress and bathe. If it cannot, escort it kindly to the gate. The precinct is open to joy, wit, and play, but not to unaccountable dazzles. Institute the criterion of presence publicly, so even an enemy may use it against you. When the god stands, the hostile withdraws. When frenzy mounts, do not crown it divine. This criterion is humiliating for those who love esoteric passwords more than healthy rooms. Keep it anyway. Let it check both your allies and your adversaries. If your revelation inflames factions, starves mercy, and fattens your image, send it to the infirmary. It has fever. If your practice cleanses the air, steadies hands, and shortens angry speeches, welcome it. Truth seldom travels without these attendants. Restore the economy of reasons. A valid reason lowers the cost of obedience. A counterfeit reason raises it. A valid reason clarifies the next necessary act. A counterfeit reason multiplies projects you are secretly afraid to finish. A valid reason survives being stated plainly by a tired person. A counterfeit reason requires orchestration to look plausible. Test each with the broom of brevity. Can this stand in one sentence without props? If not, reduce. If reduction reveals theft or fear, begin again. Make the knave a market of verification. Set up stalls where propositions pay rent by service. Post a sign, no claim may reside here that refuses to be weighed by consequences borne by the weak. Parade arguments through the crowd of the ordinary. Children, widows, apprentices, night shift nurses. Let them ask their questions. If your claim cannot survive a kitchen, a ward, a workshop, and a street corner, it is not ready for the sanctuary. Dialectic is not class privilege. It is civic hygiene. Scrub the mirrors. There are mirrors that train the gaze to endure light and mirrors that trap the gaze in angles. The first is a discipline, the second is a narcotic. The first returns you to the source, the second turns you into a curator of poses. Use the mirror to learn steadiness, not avoidance. If you practice looking only at reflections, you will mistake your survival tactics for truth and call cowardice prudence. Lower the mirror when the teacher enters. Establish ranks among voices, not to flatter power, but to keep order. In matters of the divine, presence has primacy, public oracles over private techniques, fruit over fireworks. In matters of craft, competence over charisma, repeatable method over anecdotal triumph. In matters of justice, equity over appetite, consistency over spectacle. Let experts teach technique and the poor teach consequence. If this seems beneath your genius is not yet civilized. Write a book of scruples and a book of allowances, and bind them together, lest you become a tyrant to yourself or a liar to others. The Book of Scruples lists cautions. Name conflicts of interest, note your favorite illusions, record your known allergies to correction. The Book of Allowances lists mercies, fatigue discounts, grief allowances, ignorance margins. The two books correct each other. Either alone ruins judgment. Dialectic without mercy becomes surgical cruelty. Mercy without dialectic becomes indulgent fog. Practice circulation of ideas through time. A claim that cannot be remembered without a slideshow is a product launch, not a principle. Reduce grand theses to portable lines that a craftsman can put in his pocket and a grandmother on her fridge. If the line degrades under use, revise it. The precinct honors durable sentences. Do not sell what cannot be returned. Never take a shortcut through a conscience. If truth is expensive, pay first with your own privilege. These carry. Conduct trials of your favorite thoughts. Assign an adversary who loves you enough to hurt your vanity and save your soul. Give them your best premise and ask them to break it kindly. If they cannot, let it stand. If they can, thank them, change your sign, and feed them. A temple that cannot host debate is a theater with incense. Let there be festivals of correction where those proven right pay for the feast and those proven wrong make the toasts. Guard against the two thieves that haunt this degree. Scruple and spectacle. They return in every precinct. Scruple gnaws the beam and calls it exactness. Spectacle paints the crack and calls it inspiration. Cure scruple by remembering that truth serves, not performs self-immolation. Cure spectacle by assigning work to every word. A word that cannot repair anything is a guest. Do not let guests run the house. Train the body into dialectical posture. Sit in ways that keep breath teachable. Keep the jaw allowed to open for apology. Keep the hands accustomed to rest between points, so listeners breathe. Let your face reject contempt. Contempt is corrosion in liturgy. When you err, you will apologize without theater. When others err, correct without relish. A clean precinct has no trophies made of opponents. Set Hecate's middle at the ambo to measure and seal thought before it is preached. Before you speak, measure. Does this claim reconcile causes and effects without humiliation? Before you publish, seal. Bind the claim to the vow, service before brilliance, clarity before novelty, falsifiability before applause. After it has worked its good, unseal. Release the claim from your name so the commons may improve it. Ideas that cannot be unbranded do not belong in temples. Erect archives of error. Not to gloat at old ignorance, but to train humility. Catalog your misreadings, fads, purges, righteous panics, and the metrics that led you to reward the wrong things. Pin alongside them the repairs, the neighbor who contradicted you for love, the student who asked a deadly small question, the janitor who pointed to the wet floor sign you had pontificated past. Read these archives on feast days. Rejoice that temples can repent. Create a chorus for dialectic, voices that repeat refrains that keep rooms sane. 3 refrains suffice for many storms. 1. State the cost to the weakest first. 2. Name your evidence and your ignorance without rhetoric. 3. Say what would change your mind. Make leaders sing these refrains before they are allowed to argue. Permit no soloist who refuses chorus. The temple's music heals when refrain rules aria. Draft a charter for disagreement and nail it to the north door. Sample clauses. We will differ as those who must live together tomorrow. We will not hire fear to do truth's work. We will not outsource courage to fury. We will not enforce unity by punishing nuance. We will test unity by acts, not hashtags. Review the charter after every fight. Amend if needed. Keep the minutes public. Secrecy fattens monsters. Distill a lexicon of clean terms. Retire words that have become chips in culture wars. Replace them with older, plainer coin. Just, fair, true, kind. Enough, too much, ours, not ours. The temple's job is not to outclever the city, but to outplain it until plainness becomes fashionable again. A civilization is saved by kitchens, clinics, courts, and workshops where clarity pays wages. Let the temple underwrite them by diction. Teach apprentices how to stand watch. Give them the broom and the bell. The broom of brevity. Sweep arguments until they stop hiding junk. The bell of recall. Ring the vow when the room forgets why it gathered. Let elders model failure, not just mastery. An elder who cannot narrate a mistake without self-exculpation is a weather vane in fine robes. Retire them to gardening and grief work until their sentences are safe again. Make public accounting a sacrament. Tithe hours to tasks no one sees, but everyone breathes. Agendas that begin on time, minutes that tell the truth, budgets that read like promises kept. If you cannot show your receipts, do not ask the city to fund your brilliance. Dialectic that cannot balance its books breeds cynicism in children and satire in the young. Satire is a mercy. Do not require too much of it. Design rights of closure so the precinct does not hoard disputes. Some arguments are solved by naming, some by mercy, some by banishing a practice rather than a person. Learn to close well. Rise. Bless. Clean. Archive. Forget. Forgiveness is the temple's ability to end a thing without leaving rot in the beams. If your closures produce ghost committees and undead quarrels, your doors are pretty, but your drains are blocked. Now rehearse the final movement of this degree. Name what remains. After separating and weighing, the work is not complete until the true receives its true name and the false is denied honorary titles. Name the counterfeit. Brilliance that bends you from vow. Urgency that hides its bill. Charisma that collects dependence. Name the true. Clarity that widens mercy without diluting justice. Distinction that frees action. Memory that returns you to your first promise. Inscribe these names on the lintel and speak them when storms assemble. Stand in the quiet that follows judgment without gloating. A clean precinct is not triumphant, it is useful. Open the doors to pilgrims and tradesmen. Let builders borrow your plumb line. Let healers use your light. Let judges check their scales against your table. Dialectic completes its liturgy when truth leaves the temple and makes streets walkable. Prepare to hand this clarity to multiplicity, degree 3. You are about to carry a single line through many rooms. The line will be tested by crowds and thirst and weather. The work of the temple is not to keep you safe from the street. It is to make you safe for the street. Sweep once more. Ring the bell. Presence before procedure, cause before effect. When the god stands, the hostile withdraws. Take the line. Step into the city. Keep measure. Degree 3, multiplicity, river theme. One in many, undivided division, flowing form, distribution without loss. Triad Q. Beginning, source, middle, distribution, end, integrity. Keywords, logos, center, circle, spring, channels, radii, hole in each, measure, commonwealth. Intent, teach the art of carrying a single load-bearing line through many rooms. Distinguish scattering from distribution. Establish customs for attention, labor, and speech that preserve integrity while serving the many. Prepare the soul to move from dialectical clarity into civic flow without fracture. Begin at the spring. Everything you are about to pour must be traced to it and returned to it. Say aloud before you descend, one water, many cups. Memorize this grammar until it corrects you mid-gesture. The city below will ask you to forget. It will point to shining vessels and swear the vessels are the drink. Refuse the hypnosis of containers. Bless containers that honor the water. Break contracts with containers that sell thirst as luxury. Take the image that keeps craftsmen sane. A center in a circle, one point present to every radius without being cut by any. Tie your breath to that center. Walk the radii out into the day, to shop and sick room, workshop and courtroom, holding a single line from the precinct. Not slogans, a load-bearing line. Tell the truth clearly. Or, never take a shortcut through a conscience. Or, price the weak into the budget, not out of it. Carry the line the way a beam carries weight, without performance, without fatigue from admiration. Now learn distribution. The one does not hoard, it overflows. From the spring, a river. From the river, canals. From the canals, furrows. From the furrows, cups. You will be tempted to count cups as if they were wealth. Counting can be fidelity or idolatry, depending on what it serves. Count to serve, to repair leaks, to route water to the dry, to slow floods. Do not count to preen. Numbers arranged to crown you will leave fields untended and neighbors thirsty. Numbers arranged to keep promises will turn deserts into bread. Logos is the river's intelligence. It carries shape through change. Keep it in front of you like a current that knows the bends better than your anxiety does. Logos is not chatter. It is coherence in motion. If your day becomes clamorous, you are listening to the surface noise. Sink your hearing to the stream bed. There, the flow keeps time with vows. Ask each task, what share of the one flows here? If the answer is none, let it pass. If the answer is some, set the measure and open the gate. Guard the difference between distribution and scattering. Distribution multiplies service without dividing the self. Scattering multiplies scenes and subtracts a soul. Signs of distribution: you finish what you start. Your tools return to their hooks. The week are not billed for your schedule. The evening finds you quiet. Signs of scattering: half-made bridges, messages that confess your busyness instead of delivering bread, children who learn the names of your projects but not the taste of your patience, a pillow that rehearses arguments. When you smell scatter, stop. Stand in place until the spring returns to your feet. Carry names the way water carries minerals. Do not bleach what gives life its taste. Learn the names of those who empty your bins, scrub your floors, clean your errors. Speak them in rooms where titles detain your tongue. You are not being quaint. You are conserving the one inside the many. A system that refuses names, devours persons, and calls the bones efficiency. Keep a ledger that cannot be read without human nouns. Practice Commonwealth arithmetic. The spring is public. The channels are stewarded. Stewardship is not ownership. It is responsibility, audited by the thirsty. Publish your measures. Post prices in digits the tired can read. Show how decisions routed water toward or away from the vulnerable. If your canal fattens orchards that invite you to dine while leaving the widow's patch to dust, your accounts will reconcile in satire first and judgment later. You will not enjoy either. Set customs of attention. Attention is coin in the marketplace of souls. Spend it like infrastructure, not like gossip. Look first where harm hides. Listen first where speech is rationed. Read first what costs you an old certainty. Refuse spectacles that enlarge envy. Refuse liturgies of outrage that teach you to love being provoked more than being useful. If a bright thing cannot be traced to the spring or routed to a need, do not fund it with looking. Adopt traffic laws for speech so crossings stop killing the unwary. Law 1, keep to your lane until the work requires a merge. Law 2, signal before turning, say what you intend to do to other people's time. Law 3, yield at funerals, sickbeds, and unslept mothers. The one bends to the wounded without losing itself. Law 4, do not speed lies through trust neighborhoods. Trust has children who play in the street. Mind the market, sanctuary rhythm. You are not asked to choose one against the other. You are trained to carry the one through both without corruption. Market hours: price fairly, deliver exactly, build redundancy, write contracts that read like promises. Sanctuary hours: give praise, hear lament, mend your rulers, put your ear to the ground where the spring hums. If you reverse them, praising during negotiation to hide a theft, bargaining in prayer to hide a refusal, you salt your own fields. Let envy die in transit. Envy thrives where being is added to by spectatorship. In distribution, spectatorship is rare. There is too much work. If another canal carries more water, repair yours. If another cup gleams brighter, wash yours. Bless the orchard that bears fruit. The fruit will rot if your blessing is absent. Your blessing is water's visa between jurisdictions. Rehearse the center and circle on your feet. At every table, keep one chair for the absent whose needs govern your choices. The shift worker not in this meeting. The child asleep while your policy drafts her future. The river whose patience your convenience spends. When the absent begin to be present in your calculus, you are approaching distribution that does not colonize. Good canals do not advertise themselves. They irrigate quietly. Use Hecate's middle to keep triadic order even while moving. Beginning: remember the source. Speak its name before planning. Middle, submit to measure. Seal activity to vow so appetite cannot hijack a day. End, perform, return. Unseal credit, route surplus back to spring and pour. Archive lessons for those who come after. Skipping the middle breeds scandal. Skipping the end breeds legends where receipts should lie. Write a field book for this degree. Portable lines that fit on a card and refuse to flatter. Samples. If it can't be returned, don't sell it. If it humiliates the weak, it isn't efficiency. If I can't explain it to the night shift nurse, I don't understand it. If the contract cannot be read by weary eyes, it is theft with fonts. If envy energies the plan eats children. Bring the body into flow. Shoulders learn to carry without broadcasting strain. Eyes learn the soft focus that scans for need without losing the thread. Hands learn the cadence of pass and place. Pass tools clean, place tools true. Feet learn the geometry of errands that wastes neither time nor kindness. Hunger learns the difference between fuel and pacifier. Sleep learns to stop before tomorrow is pawned. The body that serves the one through the many becomes a measured instrument. It breaks less and repairs more. Hold ceremonies for repair. The many will break the one's line by accident and sin. Make repair quicker than blame, cheaper than denial, more honorable than concealment. Ritual, name the breach without theater. Route water immediately around the wound. Post a sign that tells the truth in words a child understands. Fix the channel in daylight with neighbors watching. Feed those harmed before you praise those who labored. A civilization is the speed at which it repairs without lying. Practice double vision. Hole in the whole and hole in each. In meetings, treat the agenda as the circle, hole in hole, but address each face as if the whole were present in it, hole in each. In teaching, present the system, then ask the one student what the system costs in her body. In law, write for the polity, sentence with the person in mind. The one is not abstract when it flows rightly, it tastes like somebody's bread. Name the two thieves of this degree, diffusion and dominion. Diffusion says yes to all channels and leaves the spring shallow. Dominion builds dams for applause and drowns villages downstream. Cure diffusion with no spoken for the sake of fidelity. Cure dominion with sharing spoken for the sake of justice. Your yes and no must be recognizable by children. If they cannot predict you, you are not yet safe to carry water. Keep an order for storm. When floods of demand threaten integrity, 1. Close ornamental spigots. 2. Route first to those whose lives break fastest. 3. Publish the triage in one paragraph. 4. Sleep in shifts, so decisions are made by humans, not hormones. 5. When the water falls, audit where it went, and repent publicly for misses. Storms teach the city whom to trust. Trust makes distribution efficient without cruelty. Teach apprentices of flow. Let them shadow you through market and ward. Name decisions while you make them. Point to spring and gauge and ledger. Let them see you refuse profitable shortcuts with a plain face. Let them hear you apologize in streets, not just in meetings. Apprentices copy what you do with fatigue. If you turn bitter at 4 p.m., they will write bitterness into their schedule. Correct them with practice, not speeches. Hand them a mop, a calculator, and a blessing. Show them how to return both with gratitude. At evening, recoil to the spring. Recoiling is not retreat. It is propulsion for tomorrow. Sit with the ledger of distributions and ask 3 questions. Did any channel purchase my image with water that belonged to the poor? Did any haste bankrupt a promise? Did any yes teach my children that usefulness is hatred, dressed for duty? Where the answer is yes, route repairs before sleep. Where the answer is no, give thanks and close the book. Finally, bless the many without betraying the one. Bless streets that teach improvisation. Bless courtyards that preserve memory. Bless kitchens that turn distribution into dinner and offices that turn measures into mercy. Bless rivulets that carry good into awkward corners of the city where fame cannot fit. Then bless the spring that none of this exhausts. Say aloud for the day to hear, the one moves through many and remains one. I will move through many and remain faithful. Sleep. The night will keep the water. Morning will ask you to pour again. Degree 2. Intellectual beauty, jewel theme, seeing as being, blessed visions, transformation of energy, the place where form shines itself. Trying vision, middle, participation, end, identity. Keywords, noetin-kalos, intelligible beauty, theoria, beholding, apoptopteia, initiated sight, morpha, form, metron, measure, Kinship, stillness, sufficiency. Intent, teach the soul to behold without devouring. Convert admiration into kinship. Move from image to form. From spectatorship to participation. Stabilize the will in a stillness that shines. Prepare for degree 1 by letting beauty disclose the good without forcing a name. Begin by learning the grammar of beholding. Looking collects. Beholding consecrates. Looking takes inventory. Beholding gives assent. Looking wants proof. Beholding accepts presence as the proof of itself. Set the room for beholding as you would for a guest who needs nothing from you. Sweep the floor of expectation. Lay a clean table of attention. Open a window to the cause of things. Then wait without appetite. Appetite makes an audience. Readiness makes a temple. When intellectual beauty comes, it does not negotiate. It stands forth, morphe, unentangled from surfaces, like a face recognized before the name returns. Do not hurry the name. Names are for trade and travel. Beauty is for recognition. Recognition precedes label the way dawn precedes clocks. Say softly, "You are what I meant when I said right before I knew any rules." The soul that says this enters the threshold of kinship. Understand the order of the visitation. First, vision, then participation, then a quiet identity that does not boast. The first is gift to the eyes. You see a proportion that cannot be improved by the wish of the room. The second is gift to the hands. The proportion enters your conduct, your pricing, your pacing, your promises, without sermon. The third is gift to the heart. What you admire becomes what you are willing to be. Not a costume, but a change in the weight and direction of your energy. Beauty bends your will without bruising it. Guard against two counterfeits at the door, novelty and sentimentality. Novelty is a juggler. It asks for applause and leaves you thirsty. Sentimentality is syrup. It gives sweetness without measure and weakens speech. Novelty can mimic suddenness. Sentimentality can mimic warmth. Test both by their fruits. After novelty, the room talks about itself. After beauty, the room does its work rightly. After sentiment, you promise vaguely. After beauty, you keep a small, honest promise at once. If you cannot keep one honest promise in the next hour, you have greeted entertainment, not apopteia. When the forms show themselves, let simplicity be your witness. Justice appears first not as theory, but as proportion that reconciles strength and mercy without remainder. Courage appears as steadiness that has dismissed swagger and despair alike. Temperance appears as song in measure, not as shortage, freeing desire from its quarrel with itself. Beauty is not paint on these. These are beauty in their intelligible posture. Stand until the posture teaches your body. Shoulders lower without collapse. Jaw releases its treaty with resentment. Hands discover a way of resting between tasks that does not advertise fatigue as virtue. Practice theoria without gluttony. Gluttony wants a portfolio of visions. Theoria wants compliance. If you leave the room with many descriptions and no change of energy, return the descriptions and ask for the change. The change is not theatrical. It shows in the way you price bread, in the way you refuse a petty advantage, in the way you correct a child without letting shame do the work of love. Beauty that does not translate into mercy is an angle in a mirror. Beauty that gives mercy is a line from the source. Let measure enter your speech. Words under beauty settle like well-cut stones. Each bears weight without shoving its neighbor. Strip phrases that puff, punish, or preen. Replace them with clean nouns that serve bread, time, debt, neighbor, enough. Let verbs confess responsibility. Give, repair, reconcile, wait, keep. Adjectives are rarely innocent. Ask each to show its receipt. If it cannot, send it out. Beauty prefers a sentence that returns more than it costs to build. Bring craft under beauty's presidency. Tools become moral in the presence of form. A sharp chisel honors restraint. A dull one rewards violence. Calipers that tell the truth shame your vanity and save your wood. Scales that do not lie train generosity to be accurate. Under beauty, even sweeping becomes sacramental. The broom learns to stop before the neighbor's threshold and ask permission with silence. If this sounds quaint, you have not watched cities corrode under cleverness. Beauty is the refusal to fund corrosion. Study failure as pedagogy. You will misname beauty because the room approves a glittering lie. You will over-polish a face and steal its breath. You will accept flattery and pass it on as counsel. Do not add to hide it. Subtract until the error reveals the law it violated. Write the law where your apprentices can see it. Do not carve for applause. Do not confuse smooth with true. Do not let pity change a measure into a lie. Laws learned under beauty are not punitive, they are mercies for tomorrow's hands. Learn how beauty behaves in absence. There will be seasons when the hall of forms feels shut. In those hours, keep customs that guard the order beauty taught. Custom 1. Act from the last clear proportion instead of the loudest panic. Custom 2. Repair something small that you did not break. Custom 3. Refuse one advantage that would humiliate the weak. Custom 4. Read one page that outlives trends. Customs do not replace visitation. They conserve integrity until visitation returns. Let Hecate's middle measure and seal your use of beauty. Before you proceed, measure. Does this line reconcile parts into a whole without humiliation? Before you present, seal. Bind the act to the vow, presence, not ornament, service, not spectacle. When the work has begun its city life, unseal. Release it from your name so it may serve beyond your invitation list. Beauty that cannot be unbranded was never beauty, it was advertising with manners. Bring the body fully into kinship. The back learns a nobility that is not a pose. The breath learns evenness. The gaze learns non-predatory attention. Feet learn to stop where stopping protects another's dignity. Hands learn to place tools where a stranger can find them. Appetite learns to be sufficient without boasting of austerity. Sleep learns to arrive as a steward, not a hostage. The body under beauty ceases to be a billboard. It becomes a portico, simple columns that carry weight so others may enter out of weather. Convert admiration into identity by acts. Choose one form, justice or truth, or mercy, and give it 15 minutes of obedience where no one can clap. Balance a scale, forgive a small debt, say I don't know in a room that pays for certainty, return a tool with more oil than you borrowed. These are the sacraments of degree 2. The soul that keeps them discovers a jewel not worn but become, a stillness that does not cease to shine when gaze departs. Name and refuse the 3 deceivers that keep the jewel in darkness. First, cynicism, the will to refuse tenderness lest one be fooled. Cure it with small, repeated acts of accurate praise. Second, irony as armor, the habit of disguising longing as laughter. Cure it with one unperformative thank you per day. Third, exhibition, the itch to make beauty a platform. Cure it by placing a finished thing where no camera can honor it and letting it work as bread works, vanishing into nourishment. Set public prices by beauty's law. Contracts must read like promises. Fonts must be large enough for the weary. Warnings must be written as if someone you love were tired and in a hurry. Hallways must widen where wheelchairs turn. Schedules must not mind sleep for profit. Under beauty, logistics become ethics. Ethics become architecture. If your plan cannot be drawn as a room where a child can breathe and an elder can rest, you have not yet understood the form. Make a lexicon of the jewel's verbs and share it with your house. Behold, consent, reconcile, proportion, reveal, unseal, return. Retire verbs that break faces, brand, posture, extract, impress. Teach apprentices to prefer a true joint to an ornate cornice, a straight beam to a boastful arch. Let them see your joy when a simple hinge swings for 50 years without groaning. Joy is how beauty tells the young, this is the way. Hold a rite of unveiling that does not crown you. Gather neighbors and the poor who will use what you made. Say one sentence that names the vow and one sentence that names the form. Then step aside. If someone asks for secrets, give them removal, the unnecessary acts you refused. If someone asks for shortcuts, give them measure, the distances you kept between desire and truth. Leave the unveiled thing where weather can test it. Beauty that fears weather is not beauty, it is theater with lacquer. Prepare for evening. Beauty will leave you with tasks, not with a trance. Put tools away clean. Write one sentence that a stranger could carry home without twisting their mouth. Thank the block for the truths it kept you from adding. Bless the faces you could not free today and trust that tomorrow will not punish you for resting. Sleep as a temple sleeps, unguarded by anxiety, guarded by law. Finally, learn the jewel's secret, it does not compete. It suffices. Where it stands, envy withers for lack of oxygen, sarcasm loses its market. Panic finds a chair. The jewel is not an ornament at the end of the journey, it is the condition of walking in the right light. Take it into degree 1 without clutching. Beauty will introduce you to the good without needing you to argue. When it bows, bow. When it grows quiet, be quiet. When it remains and you forget yourself, you are ready for the fire that needs no breath. Degree 1. White fire. The one theme. Monad beyond triad, self-arriving light, sufficiency, rest, non-contradiction of opposites. Triad Q. Overarching. The monad rules the triad. Keywords: monas, beyond, epikeina, silence, rest, sufficiency, self-manifest, self-willed, source, blessing, measure, complete. Intent: release the soul from using even the highest forms as ornaments, disclose the good as more than measure, measure sufficiency, teach the posture of yielded presence, end the circle without ending movement, rest as the condition of right activity. Be silent. The highest does not require your trumpet. The white fire arrives by itself. Do not clap, do not bargain, do not pretend to be poor, so generosity will pity you. Poverty is not a performance piece in this precinct, it is the honest absence of claims. Put down your claims. Lay the ladder on its side. Fold the mirror in linen and send it to the storeroom. The mind that tried so well to see now learns to be seen by what needs no witness. The heart that argued so long to be right now agrees to be ruled by what is beyond right and wrong as battle words, and prior to both as sufficiency. Name the triad once, for blessing, and let it stand. Father above, power in the middle, now proceeding, beginning, middle, end, measured and dear. Bow. Then accept the humiliation of holiness. Even this is not highest, it is held. The monad rules the triad without belonging to the count. It is not a first among equals. It is the reason number means anything at all. If you stand here still requiring contrast in order to worship, you are not here. Contrast is for learning. Here there is overfullness, the good that gives the reasons their wages. Let yourself be released from using God to solve your puzzles. Problems are weather. The one is climate. The white fire does not answer the question. It heals the asker. Askers that have been healed will take up questions again, in courts, kitchens, councils, but no longer as orphans bargaining for bread. You will notice the change in the arithmetic of your breath. The inhale ceases to be a loan, the exhale ceases to be a tax. Breathing becomes gratitude's machine. Gratitude at this height is not a moral act. It is physics in a kinder key. There is a terror that often visits here, and you must greet it as a neighbor, the loss of roll. You are the climber, the witness, the carver, the scale keeper, the river bearer. Who are you now, standing without a job before a light that needs none of your employment? Answer softly, I am related. Relatedness precedes utility. The white fire is kin-making without competition. It does not enlist you, it adopts you. You do not volunteer, you are found. Learn the posture. It is not crumpling. It is not posing nobility for the diary of onlookers. The posture is upright without argument, a spine free of propaganda, hands open without helplessness, a jaw resting from litigations, eyes unarmed but awake. If sleep comes, it is not escape. It is hospitality to the sufficiency by which suns rise without invoices. If tears come, they are not sermons. They are the city's salt returning to ocean. If laughter comes, it is not triumph over others. It is the body remembering that joy was the normal temperature all along. Understand rest here. Rest is not the prize after conquest. It is the condition in which conquest has nothing to do. The one is not another taskmaster who pays in weekends. The one is the end of time as employer. Time becomes garden again. Hours are trees that shade. Minutes are herbs that heal. Seconds are water that moves without forcing you to drink. You will work again, better than before, but not as a debtor trying to buy your way into your own house. You will work as a child who knows the house is already yours, and honored and worth cleaning. Beware of two thieves that creep even into whiteness, scruple and spectacle, the last masks. Scruple whispers that you are not yet holy enough to rest. Answer with the grammar of gift. It is given. Spectacle urges you to display your serenity. Answer with the grammar of secrecy. It is hidden for the sake of love. Scruple wants a receipt. Spectacle wants an audience. The white fire provides neither. It provides itself. Practice a small liturgy that teaches the body what the soul has been told. Liturgy 1. Lower the shoulders and let them stay lowered through the next 3 sentences you speak. Liturgy 2. Let the next thing you put down remain where it serves another, book, tool, sorrow. Liturgy 3. Do not rehearse a grievance during the washing of hands. Liturgy 4. Return a kindness without naming the balance. These are not techniques to force arrival. They are manners for a house in which arrival is already the air. When recollections of failure crowd like creditors, allow the white fire to do its arithmetic. It does not erase, it reconciles. Reconciliation is not amnesia. It is order in which even wounds are given places that stop bleeding. If the mind demands a count of sins, let it count to the end and then add mercy as the last number that changes all preceding values. If a neighbor demands penance that leaves you chained to yesterday, confess what is due and refuse the chain. Chains are not sacraments here. Release is. The white fire is self-manifest and self-willed. You did not recruit it by posture. You did not steer it with syllables. Keep that truth as a hedge against future superstition. Superstition is the laziness of the fearful clever. It turns insight into control. Here, control is a door you are asked to remove from its hinges. If you must keep a tool, keep attention. Not the predatory kind that hunts for angles, but the hospitable kind that makes room for a guest who arranges his own chair. Hold the pairings together without argument until they stop fighting in you. Justice and mercy, clarity and tenderness, measure and overflow, temple and market, silence and speech, grief and gratitude. The one is not the referee of their duel. It is the home where their duel never began. When you taste this, sometimes for half a minute only, do not accelerate. Acceleration is panic's grammar. Let the taste educate your next small choice. Weigh without cruelty. Speak without theater. Fix without humiliation. Rest without apology. There will be a temptation to teach this immediately. Teaching is very near to selling, and selling is the trade route of the mirror. Delay. Let the white fire adjust your metabolism before you set prices for its warmth. The city does need this. God knows it is freezing in certain neighborhoods. But carry coals, not slogans. Coals are quiet, portable, and do not confuse the carrier with the heat. Slogans recruit you to become important about a gift that refused importance to adopt you. Err on the side of invisibility until your friends tell you you have become calmer rather than louder. Establish customs of sufficiency. Custom 1. Pronounce enough aloud when a project reaches rightness. Do not gild. Custom 2. Pronounce enough aloud when your appetite reaches nourishment. Do not chase spice for grief's sake. Custom 3. Pronounce enough aloud when praise starts to deform your posture. Sit down. Sweep the floor. Custom 4. Pronounce enough aloud when anger has performed its surgical duty. Put down the scalpel. The one is the country where enough is not stinginess, it is truth. Set a small canon of sentences for storms, the ones you can say with a straight mouth when clocks shake. The source is not exhausted. Rest is allowed. No one needs to lose for the good to be good. I am not in charge of the sun. I will keep measure while mercy works. These are not spells. They are handles on the door when thunder makes hands forget their training. Honor Hecate's middle one last time, not as ladder but as seal. Seal this hour to a vow that will not embarrass the white fire when you leave. I will not make scarcity a god. I will not bill the weak for my lateness. I will not speak as if hope were naive. Then unseal your name from this hour so the hour is free to travel where you are not. The one wastes nothing, and it does not require you to be everywhere to prove that. Now a word on blessing. Blessing is how the white fire enters streets without ceremony. Choose 3 small things and bless them without adjectives. The broom that stops dust from becoming contempt. The ledger that forces speech to honor numbers. The hinge that keeps doors from humiliating the frail. Choose 3 large things and bless them without ownership. The river you do not control. The sky that disobeys your calendar. The neighbor whose forgiveness you may never deserve and will accept anyway. Blessing is not optimism. It is alignment with sufficiency that was there before your fear invented math. Some will ask, where is the proof? They are loved. Give them receipts in the currency they can carry. A rested face in the morning, a contract that reads like mercy without lying about equity, a song sung softly to a child you did not plan to love. Proof at this degree is applied. It is bread that disappears. It is the lessening of panic's market share. It is the slackening of envy. It is the maintenance of joy in a week that included funerals and invoices and the bitter weather of the unchosen. Proof is that you did not become smaller to survive. When absence arrives, and absence will, for even the white fire educates by seasons, do not panic back into ladders and mirrors. Keep a short rule for winter, 1. Do one necessary good with no witness. 2. Refuse one small lie that would make today easier. 3. Speak one sentence of gratitude that does not flatter you. 4. Sleep inside your vow. Winter is not the failure of summer. It is how roots speak to depths. Roots converse with the one more fluently than flags. Finally, let the circle close without closing. The beginning, the middle, the end, held in a single hospitality that cancels none and crowns none. The work of the degrees is not thrown away here. It is quieted. Beauty keeps shining, but it stops asking for audience. Virtue keeps climbing, but it refuses trophies. Dialectic keeps sweeping, but it stops hoarding disputes. Multiplicity keeps carrying, but it remembers the spring without effort. Memory keeps burning, but flame no longer advertises warmth. Matter is forgiven and kept at distance. All stand in a ring that has a center everywhere and a circumference nowhere. Walk out under ordinary sky. Do not narrate what cannot be narrated. Pay a bill on time. Answer a message without angles. Repair a hinge. Forgive a debt you could legally collect. Put a hand on the doorframe and say, "Thank you," to no one present. The white fire hears. It does not need your poetry. It needs your peace to spread. Rest, and when you work again, and you will, let the work be the kind that does not disturb the one. That is enough.